Good morning. You are getting poked by Laura. Before we start, I want to ask you to please go to my Patreon and become a member. It's free, and you will get full access to my podcast there. Also, I answer questions. If you prefer YouTube, I also broadcast these podcasts. They don't sound as good because I'm recording them from my phone, but I do post those to YouTube. So if you like to watch Boo Boo, I got you. If you want to watch me poking you, you can do it on YouTube. So today I have, more than one request to talk about sugar in more detail. And it's a really good question. And, one of the negatives of being in your profession for a long time is that some of the basic things do get lost because, I have to stay interested in what I do. So I become focused on other things and, I talk in new ways and I lose some of the basic things. I always keep some basic things because I know basic education about our bodies, physiology, anatomy, understanding the physical, emotional connection of our body and our being is important. So I am rooted in basics, but sometimes, pardon me, I forget some basic things that I remember when I first learned them. I was like, why did I not learn this in school? Everyone should know these things, but I think it's a little bit that, knowledge is hard to spread. It takes a long time to pass on certain knowledge into the general population. And by a long time, I mean, it can take millennia, right, to learn basic truths, even truths that we used to know and that we lost. But I think in general that it's just not what we value in this culture. We don't value health. Not real health. We value being thin. We value looking young, but you can get those things without being healthy at all. You can get those things through a knife and drugs and surgery, makeup. But true health from the inside out, we do not value, because if we did, we wouldn't be a full-on capitalist system. If we did, we would take care of one another. If we did, we would understand our bodies. If we did, we would have community. So it's just not what we value in this age and time, in this place that I live in, the United States of America, in the year of our Lord 2025. So let's talk about sugar. So sugar. I don't like to talk in terms of allopathic Western blood tests. I think if you understand those things, that's fantastic, good for you, so do I. But in terms of integrating information so that it can actually become wisdom, right? There's a lot of people out there who know a lot. It doesn't mean that they're wise with that information or knowledge. Knowledge and information is not wisdom. So I want us to move past information and numbers and titles, and I want us to move into understanding our bodies. So sugar, okay. The first question that I want to answer this is from a Patreon listener. What's the difference between types of sugars? I think the exact question was what's the difference between a natural sugar versus cane sugar versus, they didn't say all this, but versus high fructose corn syrup versus things like stevia and monk fruit, xylitol, erythritol, all these types of things. So lots. Mostly the difference is where they come from and how they're attached. Okay, so if we're talking about a natural sugar, something like a banana or an apple or a grape, right, a piece of fruit, a whole food. So sugar in that form is not free-floating sugar. Okay, it's not processed food that different ingredients are blended together and then made into a product. This is a product of the earth that is grown whole. So we have vitamins, we have nutrients, minerals. We have all kinds of other components that we still don't understand about food. Really, even Western medicine does not. Even Western science, I should say, does not. Herbalists, we understand a lot more about food components and plant components and animal components. But basically, it's a fused thing, right? So the sugars that are in that natural whole food, they are integrated into a nutritious love muffin for our bodies. So the way it's constructed works with our body's natural ability to digest that thing. So the sugar is attached to fiber and all kinds of other nutrients, and the sugar in that case is a method of delivery that facilitates the rest of the nutrients of that plant, of that fruit. Okay? So our bodies assimilate it in a way that is natural and slow. Now I'm going to break that down. What do I mean by that? Let's compare it to cane sugar. Okay? I'm not even going to get into high fructose corn syrup. I don't think I'm going to need to after this talk, but if we want to get deep into the whole of the different sugars, we can do that. High fructose corn syrup, despite the commercials sold to you by the corn industry, I don't know if you remember these commercials. They said a calorie is a calorie and sugar is sugar. No, that's not true. That is not true. That is like saying water is water, and if the water has lead in it, it's still water. No, it's not. It's water with lead. But anyway, okay, so keep that in mind. Let's talk about sugar in a candy bar, right? In a processed food where this substance, this crystally white substance that has been extracted with nothing attached to it. It's just sugar. Let's compare that to what we just talked about, right? A natural piece of fruit where it's all like this one being, and it's all a part of a delivery system that unfolds kind of naturally and slowly in your body to deliver nutrients, to deliver energy in pure form. If we look at something like cereal with sugar, a candy bar, whatever with sugar in it, when you eat that product, just because it is combined and processed, it is done so outside of the bounds and the composition of a natural food. Okay, so it's a drug, really. Processed foods really are drugs. If you want to take issue with that, we can have that conversation. I just want you to sit with the concept for today. So sugar in that form, when it enters your bloodstream, and I'm going to use an analogy that a friend of mine used with me this morning. I tend to use other words, but they're the same. It's the same. She said, it's like putting razor blades in your bloodstream. And that is exactly correct. And I want you to have that visual of your bloodstream and your organs and anything in your body that carries or receives blood. When you eat sugar, first of all, the effect on sugar that way is immediate. Okay, the body has an immediate response. Why? Because the sugar is not combined and attached to fiber, minerals, vitamins that hold that sugar in check. So it is an immediate impact on your body. So that sugar goes right into your bloodstream. And when it does that, what your body has to do in order to break sugar like that down so that it doesn't kill you, because those are razor blades in your bloodstream, is the pancreas, which you may not know much about. The pancreas is a really mysterious, cool organ. It's very sensitive. It's very powerful, but it can be very easily overused. The pancreas gets overused by overthinking, truly. By overeating sugar, and in general, an overexertion. It takes a little longer for like a physical sort, but yes. So it's powerful, but it's sensitive. And it produces insulin, of one of many things that the pancreas produces. It's a huge part of your digestive process. Like as soon as you start salivating, that's your pancreas. So when you eat sugar, your pancreas is like goes on high alert. It's like code red. It's like a red flashing light on top of an ambulance, okay? So it starts pumping out insulin, which is not an easy thing to do. But you just overloaded your body with sugar that we would never get if we didn't live in the modern world. Like the body is not set up to take that kind of a sugar. So you're putting this immense pressure on your pancreas, and it's like insulin. What does insulin do? Insulin comes along and it takes those razor blades. And why are they like razor blades? It's the literal chemistry of it. So if you know anything about chemistry, you know that it's like particles that attach, right? And they make shapes. It's like the coronavirus. The reason they call it coronavirus is that the chemical shape of it, the physical shape of it, looks like a sun. It's got like horns coming off the ends. It looks like and it gets stuck. It can get stuck in things. It's a sticky virus. So that's what sugar's like. And so it's a red alert on the body. Like, hey, our veins are getting torn up right now. As my friend pointed out, right, when people get neuropathy or they go blind from diabetes, this is why, because the razor blades are tearing up these very delicate vessels that supply blood to very delicate places. So every time you consume sugar, you are putting razor blades inside of your body. You are creating damage. Now, how does that also then raise cholesterol? Well, we already tend to eat diets that are low in fat, which is a mistake, a big mistake. Our organs need fat. We just need to eat the right kinds of fats, and we need to get rid of sugar. But because we don't eat cholesterol, now the liver goes into high alert because we're tearing up the insides of the arteries and the organs while we're waiting for this insulin to come and arrive and bind with the sugar to break it down so that it stops doing that to us. So while this damage is being caused, how do we repair damage in the arteries and in the organs? How does that happen? Through the process of cholesterol. Cholesterol is not a bad thing. There's no such thing as good and bad cholesterol. That's a lie. That is like saying that an ambulance on its way to the accident is bad, and an ambulance going back to the hospital, aka the liver, is good. No, that's bullshit. It's good both ways. The problem is, why do we keep creating damage where we have to keep making cholesterol? Not only making cholesterol, right, which is glue, to come fix those arteries, to come put stuff there, but then why do we get this buildup? Because we keep causing damage and we keep forcing the liver to produce cholesterol. And not only that, our livers are overworked because they're not getting the fat they need from our diets, because we have wrongly been taught that eating fat equates to clogged arteries. That is a lie. That is a lie. There is a combination of food, of processed food in the modern world that creates an overproduction of cholesterol, that has us caught in a cycle with sugar of damage. Sugar is one of the single most destructive things in our food supply. It is so toxic and it is so ever present that trying to talk to people about this kind of stuff is nearly impossible. And it's why I don't get on a soapbox and do it, because I don't want to become another physician, healthcare person, whatever, health influencer out there just saying the same things that people have heard a million times in magazines, and then they try to sell you some product that will never work and will never succeed, because if it did, there would be no more products. It's just another way to market something and sell you something. So instead, let's learn about the fact that when you put sugar in your mouth, you are tearing up your arteries and your organs every time. So am I saying never ever eat sugar? No, sure, eat sugar, but maybe you might change the form of sugar that you eat, because it's a little less destructive, it's a little more natural. Or maybe you might take it out altogether. Or maybe you just eat it a couple of times a year and know how special that is, and make sure that the thing you're eating that has the sugar is like really worth it. Like it brings you joy, because sugar is no joke. The two substances in our culture that really need a lot more attention and understanding on a basic level are sugar and alcohol. Yeah, it's a big deal. So you eat the sugar, the razor blades go through you, they're tearing shit up. Like it's like anarchy in there, the bad kind of anarchy. You know, and they've got guns and razor blades, and they're tearing you up from the inside out. And then the pancreas is like, oh my god, and it's like trying to pump out all this insulin to come and bond with the sugar and break that down so it can stop tearing you up. In the meantime, the liver's like, fuck, I gotta go put this fire out, because we're going to bleed out from the inside otherwise. And so then the liver starts pumping out cholesterol, which it can't get from the raw material that you're eating, because you're not eating good fats. And so that's overtaxing the liver. So pretty soon we also have a fatty liver. Oh my goodness. I mean, really, this is just sugar I'm talking about. So what does it do? Yeah, in really simple terms, it tears you up. Like if you have inflammation, if you are overweight, if you feel tired, if you feel like you're aging too fast, if you have extreme swings in your energy, like you bottom out or you eat sugar or coffee or what, like if you got rid of sugar, it would literally have the single biggest effect on your health profile. And not only that, once you really started to look for sugar, you would realize how much you're actually eating a day. The amount of sugar that Americans eat a day is obscene. So the last thing I'll talk about, and then please ask more questions because I could talk about this forever. We could go very deep. Like this is a rabbit hole. Like I said on the title of this, I could go all night. Okay, you're here to get poked. I can go all night. All right, it's both a metaphor and it's reality on many levels. Don't mess with me. I'm being so serious. So I don't really consume sugar. I'm not going to say never. I do. There's a bakery here in town that I like, and we go once every 3 months, I think. And I'll get a shortbread cookie. Oh my gosh, with all that butter, yum. I eat sugar. I don't deprive myself, but I do not on a daily or weekly basis consume sugar at all. I have a sugar-free existence. I let my kid have a little sugar, but because he's always been more on things like stevia and monk fruit, which not everybody can eat those things. But also I would say don't let yourself be an asshole about it. Okay, because this is the thing I hear, especially about stevia. Oh, I had stevia. Ugh, such an awful aftertaste. Okay, well, did you try different forms of it? Did you try using it at different temperatures? Did you try it in different kinds of things? Because different kinds of things can take on a different flavor. Did you try it more than once, twice, 3 times? Really, it takes time to adapt, especially when you're talking about a drug like sugar that impacts, by the way, dopamine big time on the brain. Sugar has a bigger impact than cocaine on the brain. I've seen the brain scans and the studies that they do of people when they eat sugar versus cocaine. It's insane. Highly addictive. Why do you think it's in everything? Do you think that if they put just a little bit of sugar in everything, it kind of gets you addicted? Yeah, speaking as someone who used to have a food addiction, for me, the sugar was by way of carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates. That's a different podcast. We can talk about it. That's a different level. I would advise you to first focus on processed sugar, any kind of processed sugar. Cane sugar, high fructose corn syrup. I mean, get that out immediately. That has to end. Do it one step at a time. Get out all high fructose corn syrup. But there are so many words for sugar. Google it. Euphemisms for sugar. I recommend things and there are many options. These are not the only ones. Stevia. I use stevia. I use liquid stevia. I don't like powdered stevia. This is what I found over time. I also found as I used it, the flavor, for me, I honestly can't tell the difference now between something with stevia and sugar. No, sugar I can taste sugar right away. Also, monk fruit is something I use, which has, I think, xylitol. Is it xylitol? No. Erythritol. It's erythritol. And these things are fermented sugars, but they have zero impact on the pancreas. That's the difference. These fermented sweeteners that come from things like tree bark, there can be corn-based ones. I try to avoid those. I try to avoid everything with corn. But tree-based fermentation process, so it's a natural product that has sweetness that is equal to sugar. Sometimes stevia is 300 times more sweet than sugar. But you can get them powdered, you can get them granulated, you can get them brown. There's many other ways to eat sugar, and people think it's gross and it's weird. It's really not, and most of it's just training your tongue. So anyway, and the difference is no razor blades in your blood. Okay, no loss of feeling. And by the way, this affects your sex life. Do you like sex? Think about all the blood, okay, that's involved in engorging the good parts. If you're having trouble in the bedroom, if you're having trouble with ED, if you're having trouble with lack of ability to orgasm or thinning skin or dryness, sugar, babe. That is the first place to go. You don't need a diagnosis. If you eat sugar, if you eat processed food, or if you eat a lot of carbohydrates, which is just a slow way to sugar, I'm talking potatoes, bread, pasta, that's still sugar. It's a different metabolic process that we go through to get to the sugar. I would argue it's a more heroin-like one. That was my particular problem. Anyway, that's 20 minutes. That's good. Ask your questions. Bring it on. I'm here for it. You got poked. I can go all night.